On Good Morning Anambra, the discussion segment this morning. My name is Ajinchuku Okagwe.
I am Ijoma Uche. Good to have you here. This morning, if possible, we're going to look at a topic that is it not trending? It's trending, Abby.
Of course.
Okay. Okay. And what is it?
Yeah, we want to be talking about the Ponzi scheme, staying safe from fraudulent investment promises. Yeah, it's actually investment promises because most of these things don't actually pan out to be what they really are. Ponzi schemes are a significant issue in Nigeria, often promising unusual high returns on investment and targeting unsuspecting individuals. These schemes inevitably collapse when the returns can be sustained, causing financial losses for many. The Nigerian government and regulatory bodies are taking steps to combat such crimes, such schemes, including raising awareness and enforcing regulations. However, the problem persists and vigilance is necessary to avoid Nigerians falling into this trap. And that's just a summary of what we'll be discussing this morning. And then we have our guest seated in the studio this morning, talking about Nonso AKCOB, Dr. Dr. Nonso, lecturer, Chukwuemeka Odumuwu Ojukwu University, Igbariam. Good morning, Doc. It's a pleasure having you this morning.
Good morning. It's nice to be here again.
And also we have Ndudin Aniche, a financial consultant, and we also and a former banker. Glad to have you this morning, Ndudin.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure having you here. Just like I said in the intro, Ponzi schemes in Nigeria, and then this might not actually have emanated from Nigeria, but then people seem to have been cashing in on people's gullibility. Now, when we talk about these things, who do we actually blame when these things come up? By just giving us first and foremost an intro into what Ponzi scheme is all about. Ndudin.
Okay, thank you very much. The history about Ponzi has its roots way back in the 17th century. They called the tulip mania. And it happened in Holland, where a group of people harvested a flower somewhere in Middle East, took it down to Holland, and created a myth around it. And there was this frenzy, an attempt to buy it. And so the price kept on rising and rising and rising without any fundamentals. And before you know it, when the price collapsed, everybody started dumping and there was a whole loss across the board. And so over time, regulatory agencies have cropped up, have come up to be able to safeguard the public. The popular one we all know that happened in America is the Madoff case, where he came up with an investment vehicle and products, and it rose. Before you know it, a lot of highly placed individuals in America got involved. And the one major attachment to it is you find people respectable in the society will get involved with it. They use them as a face of it. So to gain popularity and credibility. And so there'll be a rush into it. Like, if this person is into it, something is in there for me. And so there's always that rush. In this part of the country, we tend to use clergymen as the people behind such schemes. And before you know it, there's a mad rush without looking at the fundamentals. You also look at the returns. When somebody is telling you, I'm giving you 30% in a month, returns on investments are annually based, per annum. And so when somebody is giving you 30% flat per month, when you multiply 30% by 12%, you have 12 months in a year. you're talking about 360% on an investment. So that should raise a big flag. Normally when you're into any form of investment, you should have a timeline of a spread, 12 months, so that there's a gestation period. Sometimes even the first 1 year, you might hardly get maybe 5, 10, 2%, 10%, less than 10%. 10% is not too bad per annum or within that range. But for somebody giving you 30%, that should
30% per annum, 30% per week.
Per month.
Sometimes per week.
Per month.
Days.
So you now start to question, what is this, which business is this man into that is willing to return 30%? That's the first question.
Yeah, let's look at how this thing works now that we have established a background. Dr. Ekesobi, it has happened several times. There have been so many things that have started and failed, and people knew how the methodology, and then another one springs up tomorrow and people still get engaged. So is there, okay, I don't want to go that way. Let's look at, it doesn't mean that there are areas where it worked, or times where it worked, or time frame where it was, let's say they started it this month and it's working for the next 5-6 months, and then people now trooped in and then they're catching on that. How do they convince people to come in, having known what happened previously?
Actually, it's quite laughable, but when you consider the damage these things continue to inflict on not just individuals but on the economy, you see that it's not a funny episode that we need to keep repeating. Now, when you say why do people, or why does it keep repeating itself, I want to look at several factors that I feel that are responsible for this. First and foremost, the state of the economy. Everybody is just, trying to look for means to stay afloat with what is going on with inflation, unemployment, the exchange rate. So whatever you have, you'll be looking for means to, double your earnings. So, but the economy has not been favorable. So people are just looking for means to, stay afloat, like I said earlier. Then secondly, another important reason to look at is the level of financial literacy. You see, I used to tell my students nowadays that literacy has gone beyond your ability to read and write. Mm-hmm. I remember when those days that we had the emergence of computer systems. You tell somebody, "Are you computer literate?" So you see, you might be able to read and write, but you are not computer literate. Right. So we are looking at. I'm now trying to look at the level of financial literacy we have in the country, and that is a reflection of the broader literacy rates we have in the country. Because you find people who are well educated or supposedly well educated with degrees up to PhDs who still fall prey to these things. So it's not necessarily the level of financial literacy per se, but literacy generally as to how the economy works. If you know how the economy works, you will know the difference between these Ponzi or pyramid schemes they run and the way a conventional financial institution in the financial system works. I tell people basically that, look, these guys there's something we call credit creation that banks do that makes them sustainable. But these guys don't create credit. They don't create value. Like my colleague here said, you see, whatever they tell you is too good to be true. And you fall prey for it because you are not financially literate. Again, people have lost faith as far as formal institutions in this country are concerned. Because when they sell you this narrative that the banks are ripping you off, what are you keeping your money for in the banks for? That look at, in fact, they embellish it so well that you easily get carried away. They tell you how much are they giving you for your monies that you have in your savings deposit compare it to the percentage you are being offered by this Ponzi scheme, and you will be like, wow, okay, let me see if I can try and do this. So you see, the loss of credibility as far as our financial system is concerned is something that we also need to look at. Then again, there are cultural factors. Like he said, he mentioned the religious leaders. I know the most recent episode, I will just have to mention their name, CBEX. I had friends, even family members, calling me. Some are calling to find out if they should invest. Why so? We're telling me, come, just invest, that I've tried it, I've been paid, and something like that. So you see the pressure from the media society. Yes. Then when you go to church and they are telling you these things, and and you are like, hey, so this thing can be true. Then you see the way they now engage this new trend of social media influencers. So when their social media icon or their celebrity, their favorite celebrity is telling you that he is doing this, he is doing that, and it is working, you see all of them just, fall in line. It's quite unfortunate that there are other myriads of factors that if we look at it together, we see that there's a problem. And again, there's another thing with what's it called? The level of regulation. We have a very weak regulation.
Okay, we'll get to that.
Yes.
We'll get to regulation.
Now, talking about this Ponzi scheme and the rest of it, you said a whole lot about influencing people, and the rest of it. Then what of the availability of all these things? Because people can only access what is available. We have betting platforms all over, and I know that these people pay a huge sum of money to government in order to run such organizations. So now, who regulates, or where do these Ponzi people operate from? As in, what preempts them to be in operation?
Okay.
Aniche.
So let me add to what he said. We've forgotten, there's what we call, Lord Maynard Keynes, an economist, that you have animal spirits in human beings. What really influences people to take investment actions. I call it the greed index in all human beings. Every human being has a greed index, whether it is very high or very low. Or you also have another classification. You have people that are risk averse and heavy risk takers. Some are falling between. And so you can't stop human beings from taking investment decisions. That is a given.
Even when it's looking like it's more like
there's no way I can't regulate what goes into your pocket or what you spend on your account. You can't do anything about it.
How you manage it.
That's one. Then two, let's even look at the involvement of Ponzi scheme. It comes out from different sectors. The first Ponzi scheme was in the stock market. The regulatory authorities came on board to regulate it. There was also another evolving sector in the banking. When the banking was evolving, Ponzi schemes came out of it. And so right now we are...
What Ponzi scheme came out of banking?
Yeah, wonder banks.
Yes, ma'am.
The wonder bank. It even happened in Nigeria. We're still getting there. In the 90s, when the South Structural Adjustment Program was introduced, the IMF advised the Nigerian government to take its hands off the banking institutions and open up the banking sector. So a lot of people went into banking with the aim of defraud. And so there were wonder banks in that. It was also a Ponzi scheme. So a lot of people made money out of it and a lot of people lost money. So the central bank also evolved. Now we were in the midst of a fourth, in fact, it's already before us, the fourth industrial revolution, which we're talking about Web3, nanotechnology, artificial intelligence, and blockchain. Now the recent one that happened, which is the CBEX, has to do with crypto coins, crypto exchange, which was not regulated. And so you will find out that regulatory authorities tend to lag behind, more especially when it comes to an evolving sector Mostly because they do not have the requisite staff that understands that sector. One, and the two.
Wait, let me interject here. As in, when these Ponzi schemes are about to start, they come with a name. Don't they get registered? That's what I'm asking. Don't they get registered? When you get registered, obviously, the people that is giving you the license to operate will definitely get to know what it is that you're doing.
That's what I'm saying. The securities and it just recently said the law was passed, which gave them, empowered them to regulate crypto-related activities. So you could see there's a time lag behind it. And most times it is when there have been massive failures or when there have been a blowout of such Ponzi schemes. Then the regulatory authorities comes in, steps in, looks at all the issues and the gaps within them, which they will fill. It's a problem globally, so it's not just Nigeria. So it comes, okay, even in America, you have that of Stan Bankman-Fried in America. It was also a crypto exchange. He was one of the highest funders of the Democratic Party election that brought in Joe Biden. He was even in talks with the Securities and Exchange Commission, but it blew out. So what do you say of that? So it is not to even give an excuse for the Securities and Exchange Commission in Nigeria. They have their own faults. But the question I do say is, how can one blame SEC for a Ponzi scheme maybe in Sokoto or in Kebbi, with an office just in Lagos and Abuja? That's the question. How do you prevent me from paying money into an account that you didn't discuss any business with the Securities and Exchange Commission? You went into a transaction privately. You didn't involve any other person and you got duped. So these are the issues.
No, that's why we're looking at the establishment of those schemes. If they are fundamentally established and monitored by an agency,
exactly.
So they should take responsibility that these people who have screened them will find out they are doing legitimate business. So whether you pay from Sokoto or you pay from Enugu does not really come in here.
Yeah.
Okay? But what we are looking at is the regulatory agency. What are they? How can you register a company that you don't know what they do?
Because I know that those people paid money somewhere in order for them to be in operation.
You see, I understand the point you made.
Yeah.
Where I will give the Securities and Exchange Commission a stake. If we've not had a very heavy fine, somebody that has been used as an example in precedent, where promoters of Ponzi schemes in Nigeria have been thrown into jail for the rest of their life. If you see that of Mother, who was sent to jail for about 25 or 30 years, that's a signal you send to the public. And a form of deterrent to potential promoters of Ponzi schemes, that when you get caught into this, you spend the rest of your life. You know, it's a breach of public trust. A breach of public trust is a very, very grievous offense. In countries like China, your life, a person pays with his life. You can commit any other crime, but when it comes to breach of public trust, in countries like China, Vietnam, the person pays with his life. And so, what I'm expecting the Securities and Exchange Commission to do is to set a bigger example for an offender in this country.
An offender that is not connected to anybody. Let's move on, because we know how things pan out in this country. They catch you and you are connected to a big shot and then you are released the next moment. Okay, let's look at for people that are watching us that want to take something home. Let's look at the characteristics of this Ponzi scheme, apart from the juicy interest that they present to you, Dr. Ekesoli. What other things will you see and you say that this one is not, it looks like it's a Ponzi scheme, okay? By extension, like AJ mentioned, we have a lot of bets, what do you call them, betting scheme or whatever. All these ones part of the Ponzi schemes. Let's look at them.
Well, they have broad such that when you are able to identify them, it raises a very big red flag. One, like here said, is the one of promising you high returns. Yeah, the returns are unsustainable when they come and they give you a very juicy percentage that will trigger that greed in you, because that is actually the bait they will put out there, and when you get hooked onto it, you are gone. So you see, the returns are very unsustainable, and you see things. When you look at the prevailing rates, especially in the market, and somebody is giving you times 10 of what that thing is, then you should ask questions first and foremost. Then the payback period, the duration, like he has mentioned again, is always very short. So they tell you, don't worry, instead of getting it within 6 months, a year, don't worry, don't put it in a bank, don't buy treasury bills. Those things that ordinarily, has a laid down process. This one just comes out and they are like, no, we'll do this, we'll do that, we'll give you this percentage, and you'll be like, okay. So you see that the repayment period is also very juicy as well. Then again, they present it in such a way that makes it, appear very, less risky. So you see it and say, wow, the risk is not there like that. Within a month, I will get my money back. And they can even tell you, put everything, you can reinvest and still get it again, and you get some referrals. I think that's what they call it, referrals. When you bring somebody, you get a particular percentage and stuff like that. So when these things play out, you should be able to identify it. Then again, then
financially, because these referral things, I think they have some of them are in products.
Buy
these products.
Yes, referrals. Yes, it's not just finance. This Ponzi, like he has mentioned, the cuts across various sectors. So it's not just in the financial sector. You see it in I had a friend who fell prey to one that has to do with real estate. They tell you, do this, do that, you get this, you bring somebody, they give you this percentage, and the money they brought, the land they didn't get, the commission he didn't get, and all whatnot. Yeah, it's crazy. Then another thing, there's Ponzi everywhere, yes, definitely. Then there's this aspect of, the registration, the documentation of these things. Sometimes that's why banks, for instance, are mandated. When you get to most of these banks, you see their certificate of incorporation, they are this, they are that. You see certain official documents that are placed for public consumption, so as to give that level of credibility and confidence to you that is the investor or you that is the client. But most of these Ponzi schemes have shady, documentation processes. I tell somebody was telling me something about what's it called? This recent one, this CBEX. Yes, that he showed me the CAC document, the Corporate Affairs Commission document that, and brandished another one. They said it's for EFCC and the rest. And I told him, do you know that you seated here now, you can register and get a CAC document within the space of a month without necessarily showing evidence that you're actually doing that, you are into that business, you went to register. So that there should be extra layers of, background checks. You can call, there's this consumer protection agency we have and several other agencies that you can communicate with to be sure. At least I even told him contacting me itself is part of the due diligence you are supposed to carry out. And thank God he didn't fall prey, because I told him about it and I told him ignore these people. You understand? So there are other, when you look at these patterns, they always have a particular pattern, and you don't. It's quite unfortunate, because another Ponzi will still come up, and you will still have people who will fall prey to it.
That's why we are.
That's what we're talking about. At this juncture, let's quickly go for a short break, and we'll return and then continue from where we be stopped. Don't go anywhere. The show continues after this.
The first step is all about greed. You know, most times what leads people to fall into financial scam is all about greed. Trying to make quick money. So the best way is to curtail financial scam is all about you step away from greed.
I think that anybody that is not greedy should not be scammed, because whenever you are trying to get what you did not work for, I think you are putting yourself into trouble. So what you don't know about it, or you are not trained to do, you are not meant to go about it.
Try to be contented with what you have. Then work towards, set a goal. Then you work towards your goal to achieve a greater height. Without that, if you want quick money, probably you might lose the little you have to financial scam.
If you are not greedy, those things you can actually fall for it. So that's my own take. Greediness leads to all this Ponzi scheme for me.
Yeah, here you heard it from our street parliamentarians telling us about the fraudulent activities of Ponzi scheme in this part of the world. And then one of them said that the most important, attribute is greed. Without greed, nobody will feast on your gullibility. So, for you out there, learn to be smart and not just be greedy. Quickly, let's now get to the nitty-gritty of what we've been discussing this morning. And doctor, let me ask you this, what happens when this whole system collapses? Is there any way people that invested can get their money? Has there been any record of money given back to investors?
Who will give back the money? Was that person a party to that transaction? You see,
like in this Tibet case now, 6 people have been arrested, and they said that EFCC is already investigating. ICPC is involved. So could that be something, that some refunds will come at the end of the day?
Whatever refunds that.
What something trillion is what we're talking about, and that's the next.
Whatever monies that come back, or they're able to retrieve, will not go back to these
investors.
Yes, I won't call them investors, because that wasn't an investment. To these victims. Yes, I won't call them investors, please. Yeah, so they will not get their money back. The money will go into the coffers of the government. Yes, and the government will now use it to do whatever it feels best in the interest of the economy. Look, when you have a proper financial system, let's use the banking sector for instance. There are monies you set aside as your reserves, and it's kept with the NDIC. So in case there's any, like the Nigeria Deposit Insurance Commission. So in case there's any problem with the bank, what then happens? You get these monies and begin to settle claims. So in this case, who are you going? Where is the record? Who has? Was there any oversight? So you cannot. So to answer your question directly, that whatever monies they get will not go back to it. Look at previous cases of this kind of a fraud, because that is what it is, a fraud. How many of them were returned to the victims? Okay,
let's move on. And then you mentioned something about cryptocurrency in the day. Is cryptocurrency part of what we are looking at as Ponzi scheme? Because there are a whole lot of them that has existed and shut down, and people didn't get anything. Though that one, you may not have really paid cash, but you paid in data and a whole lot of things. So is it part of what we're talking about?
I recall saying many times Ponzi scheme evolves when there's an emergence of a new sector. And with the evolution of the fourth industrial revolution, which is before us right now, and blockchain as a part of it. Blockchain is also an emerging sector with the use of digital assets. I prefer using the word digital assets and not crypto. It's somehow people tend to develop cold feet when you use the word crypto. So it's digital assets. I'm more biased into finance and the use of digital assets in the financial industry. And so when anybody is coming to you to preach about the crypto or digital assets, what I do tell people is ask that person, what is the use case of such an asset? If the person does not really understand that word use case, scratch that person off. When I say use case, it's what is the use value? Which purpose, which problem is it solving in that industry? Crypto assets are tailor-made for a particular purpose. That's why. And it's more like it's a disruptive technology to enhance a particular industry. Now, in finance, it's basically used for payments, trade finance. When I say trade finance, imports and exports, bills of exchange. Then you also have the idea of even tokenization of deposits and also crypto assets for the stock market and even the housing market. So it has this technology, it has these uses for what any crypto asset is used to. I've heard a lot of people talk about cryptos for gaming. That's okay. For gaming, which people are, so I can ask, okay, what is the market size of that gaming you're into? So when you look at it, and there's so many crypto coins, about 17,000 on the coin market cap. That's why. Only 10,000 are active. And out of that 10,000, just less than 1% has a use case. The rest of them are just meme coins. Sorry, I don't want to use the word, but they all have no use cases. And so you see,
when they don't have any use case, what does it pertain?
It's a potential red flag. It's more or less like the founders who used it as a pump and dump scheme. They will pump it into the system, make a marketing device out of it. They've allocated, more or less like they will create 1 billion coins out of it. At, let's say $1. They've kept about 500 million to themselves and pump out 500 million into the market. When there's a rush for it, it rises. That 500 million, they are million coins, they are allocated to themselves. They dump into the market and go home with $500 billion. So the whole price crashes down on everybody. So the question I do tell, understand the product you are buying. If you don't have time to read, get a consultant, get somebody to advise and guide you. The problem is they don't like paying our fees. So honestly, I just gave out some free tips here. We don't. That's the sad aspect. The sad aspect. Everybody thinks he's a financial expert or knows a lot about his money, and so he's like, "Are you going to tell me what to do with my money?" So when I see such articles, I just think that's okay. Sorry. So, but when they're not like, okay, you think you have knowledge, so why aren't you a rich man? And so you see that attitude. But then,
and when it crashes, he will run back to you to ask you how you will recoup. How am I going to recoup my money?
So that's the problem. So that's the problem. So for us out there, even when you want to preach where the economy is heading to with blockchain, and the right ones, they're like, look at you. Look, who is this guy coming to tell us?
You know this, you have not made all the money.
Exactly. So we just keep quiet and allow them to go ahead. Funny enough, despite the blowout of StreetX, there are still Ponzi schemes where I live in Enugu. They still meet, they discuss, and hoping for something to germinate. And I said, what? But Nigerians don't ever, the amnesia of Nigerians is legendary. And so we easily forget. We came around,
we don't even care. I think that's where we don't care. If he walks on it, he doesn't walk
we just move on. So there is this
this one on Facebook that sparked widespread debate after he advertised it on his Facebook page on Wednesday, April the 23rd, 2025. The offer included 10 exclusive slots for one-on-one mentorship sessions with initial payment of 2.5 million and the remaining balance spread across 12 months. This is this is Akintayo, the mentorship package promised access to a billionaire coaching community. This same person has authored 45 books on other opportunities of how to make money, how to be a billionaire. Now, EFCC are beginning to, because this is on the social media, and that could be an avenue where gullible Nigerians and people that want to get rich quick, make money fast, will now go in there. So now, talking about these regulations, now, what can government do, and even social media owners, the X, the TikTok and the rest of it, because there is no limitation to what is available there on the social media, and that is where they spread their net in order to catch all these people. What can we do in order, the government, individuals, starting with the government, to curb all of these things? Because you can only be a part of what is available to you. What you don't know, you don't know. I didn't know about Tibet until it crashed. You understand? Probably maybe I have the wrong set of friends.
No, the right set of friends, actually. You have the right set of friends.
Don't tell me about it.
Because they themselves are not concerned. They are not concerned with these kind of things as well.
Even for registered firms, when companies are going to the market to raise money, initial public offer, there's always a clause on the forms. It's a buyer's market. Consult your financial advisor before investing. It's a clause in all. Now, for schemes like that, normally, I run a consulting firm, I just advise. But if I want to start taking public funds, I have to register that fund with the Securities and Exchange Commission. That's one. I need to have a SCOMO certificate from EFCC. CBEX had a SCOMO certificate. But they didn't register with Securities and Exchange Commission. Now, you can also register with Securities and Exchange Commission and still run a Ponzi scheme.
Really?
Yes, it's true.
Because there are forms, documents you're supposed to collect, there are regulatory checkups intermittently, what you're supposed to do. It's properly guided, properly regulated.
Wait, let me pause. Dr. Ekesu, does it mean that the people that perpetrate this thing are actual experts in this field? Because the layman cannot structure how this business will go and then throw it out there for people to be gullible and then it cashes in on their ignorance. Sometimes what differentiates between somebody who is wealthy and somebody who is not is that this wealthy, some of the wealthy class take advantage of loopholes in the system, in the regulation. So they are knowledgeable enough of this. It's just like those who do tax evasion. You cannot evade tax, or you cannot cook your figures if you are not an expert in it. So they are well knowledgeable about the process, and they know about the documentation process and the regulatory gap. Like he rightly pointed out, that most of these sectors are still emerging. And at this point, the regulation is not yet on ground, or is still in the process. So when these guys make the first move, you see our regulatory agencies trying to play catch up. And that's basically what happened in this case. So you cannot.
It looks like they're working.
Yes, not necessarily. Well, we want to be optimistic to believe that they are actually working in the interest of Nigeria. But as it stands, these people know how to take advantage of the weaknesses in our laws, in our regulatory framework, and exploit it to their own benefit. That's the basic thing.
Okay, we are rounding off. Ndodi, did I get it?
Yeah.
Okay. So I want you to, from your experience as a consultant, advise some people. One, the consequences of you getting involved in this, and what you need to do if you must invest.
Okay. The first thing I normally tell people to do is understanding the business or the market you are investing in, or whatever thing you are investing in, understand? It's more or less like if you buy a land, a piece of land, you don't go to sleep. You go to the land, cultivate it, fence it, do regular checkups, even if you've not built anything on it. Once in a while, you will go and look at it.
Ensure there's no encroachment.
Exactly. So same also in investment outlets like this. Also, even in your stocks and bonds, you should also look at it. It has its high moments and low moments. So coming back to Ponzi schemes. So the question is, who are the people behind it? There are questions you should ask. Do you really understand that market? Do you really understand the returns on it? Funny enough, I saw somebody came online, and sometimes they will package themselves very, very well to look good on paper. I saw somebody talking about investing in derivatives. I said, wow. Do Nigerians understand derivatives? It's also another investment outlet. It's a contract. So it's very technical. If you don't understand it, you get wrong.
Whatever they tell you.
So the person presenting will tell you, oh, I've been a Wall Street banker for 25 years. Wow. Sometimes when you put PhD degree behind it, so the question is, you need to understand the business or that sector you're into, the size of the market and the returns. So these are things you need to do. But it's not everybody that has knowledge of this. So that's why I say consult a financial expert. Unfortunately, I've seen even bankers lead people into investments like this, which is very sad. Very, very sad. When MMM was on board, I knew so many bankers that went into it. Funny enough, I even explained when they joined in Enugu in September. I explained, hey, this thing is a fraud. This is how it plays out. They told me, no. This was during 2 years in Buhari's administration when there was a recession. No, you spoke well, but let's just do it and cash out. In December, 3 months after in December, it went down.
Well, that's the mindset.
That's the mindset.
I will cash that before the rush.
So you see, it's always a buyer's beware market. Everybody, whoever is into it, you should ask questions, ask the right questions, and there are some risks you don't really need to take. More or less like investing your children's school fees into stock ventures, or you're investing in your house rent. These are short-term funds that you need, that comes up immediately. Then investment generally is, you should have the capacity to, if you want to invest, you have the capacity to endure a loss. That's it.
Generally.
Yes.
Not just.
That's why it's called profit and loss. It's not profit and profit.
You need to know the outlet if it is not a Ponzi scheme.
So how do you know that? Is it by the...
Generally, they all have...
Is it by the juicy...
No, not the juicy. Once you see 30% a month, please run away.
Run for your life.
Let us take consultation from financial experts.
Well, thank you so much, and that's the much we can take on what we are talking about. Ponzi schemes and then fraudulent investments that promises, safe haven. They don't most times turn out to be what they promise, and that's what we're talking about here, so that you out there will be wary of such investment, like Dr. Ekesubi said, so you don't fall a victim and thinking that you're an investor. You understand? Well, we want to use this opportunity to thank our guests this morning. They really talked extensively about Ponzi schemes and then the inner workings of it, the regulations, the documentations, and what you should look out for. I want to thank in no small measure Dr. Nonso Ekestiobi, lecturer, Chukwuemeka Odumogu, Jukwu University, Ibadan. Doctor, good morning. So once, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Let's go and welcome Mr. President.
In fact, I was going to ask you that. How do you guys feel? Are you set to welcome the president? You came from Enugu to join us in welcoming Mr. President.
No, I don't. And also, we want to thank Ndudi Aniche, our financial consultant and ex-banker. Thank you so much for availing yourself.
Thank you very much.
Here. And then, I still remain at Chukwuchukwu.
Yes, so, and before we go, I just want to drop this for you that if you suspect a Ponzi scheme, it is essential and for you to be very, very cautious and seek advice from financial experts or even law enforcement agency, okay, so that you'll be covered. They know these things because they have been seeing it. Because I know how many people their finances have gone down the drain through this Ponzi scheme. Oh, well, my name is Ijama Uche. You can see that we are ready, set to go and receive Mr. President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu today. That's the intel we're receiving now. It's like he's already here. So wherever you are, behave yourself today. I don't want us to create a negative image of ourselves. Okay, I remember in those days when we stand on the road to say, Mr. President, you're welcome. You can still do that from your. Okay, by the way, that's a distortion in movement. I don't know whether you know about that. My guest, Ekesobi, had an experience this morning coming to this place. So please prepare your mind as you're going out. That that road that you usually take might not work today. So don't abuse anybody. It's just for us to have a secure environment for the visit of the president, okay? My name is Ijoma. God bless you.